Again, nice change to actually get to use the shaper in the workshop. Doesn't get a lot of use, but it's very, very good at what it does, which is making a nice flat surface. And here I'm cutting down a piece of bar that was inch or 25.4mm. It's going down to 20mm, and I'm taking the final cut on it now. I've been taking 1mm deep cuts all the way through, so basically 5 cuts along at 1mm, 1 at half a mil, and that's taking me right down to it, and the last cut is 1/10 of a millimetre just to give a decent surface finish. And it's a nice quiet machine, just sits here doing its job, and it'll get to the end and then I'll just stop it, and that will be that little job done. Next time I'll try not to lose a part when I move and have to make a new bit to lift the motorbike up. I'm now at the lathe, and what I'm making is one of these. It's to replace the one that got lost when I moved 3 years ago, and it fits in the front fork lifting unit for the new motorbike I've got, or newer motorbike I've got. And unfortunately that when we moved, that bit departed my ownership somehow, and I'm now having to make a new one. So you saw the square piece I was using on the shaper a little earlier. I've now put it up and set it up in the 4-jaw chuck on the lathe. The nice thing about this lathe is, being a semi-industrial one, it actually has a cam lock system, so it's nice and easy to change between the 3 and the 4-jaw. I've centered the bar in the 4-jaw. I've faced off the end, so it's now nice and even, because off the bandsaw it's not quite square, so it's now done. And you can actually just about see down here a little mark that I made when I was setting up to run it, make sure it's running square. So that's now faced off. I've got centre drill in, and all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit start on this. Just about see that I've centered, I put a hole in the end there, so that's now centered. I can now set up again and get an ordinary drill and drill through the square bar. That will be about a half-inch hole to take a piece of half-inch bar so that it will pivot, and then set that up in there. So I'll go and do that. Well, that's the drill I've just used to drill all the way through at half-inch. Now you may not just notice that the end of that looks rather shiny, and the reason being that part way through it decided to pick up on the end. It was a fairly cheap drill set I bought a while ago, and it doesn't like drilling over much. Thankfully, sitting over in another corner of the workshop, we have my tool and cutter grinder. So I spent a bit of time resharpening the drill on here, so it now cuts quite well. Thank you very much. That's the problem when you buy a set of drills which look a good price and you suddenly realise there's a reason it's a good price. It's because it's not very good. Okay, we're now over on the small lathe, and I'm turning down the spindle that's going to go through the square bar that I've just drilled out. It's slightly oversized, so I'm just taking it down. I'm running it with a running centre at one end, and I'm just taking the first cut off, and as you can probably see, it's not all the way down, it's running slightly off, but it's an old piece of steel, so it's probably not in the best of condition. So I'll run that down, and then I need to turn that down to half an inch. Well, that's the first cut done. Let's clear all the length through, and I've just measured it, and you can probably just read it on there. It's 0.5409, so I need to take just over 400 thou off that. I want to get it just under half an inch, and then it will be a nice smooth rotatable fit in the square box. Okay, what we've got here is where we're at the moment, which is one square box with a 1/2 inch hole through the middle, which will take the spindle that you can see me sliding in and out. And there's a circlip groove in the end there, which will take the circlip, that will hold it in. The other end is turned down to 7/16 of an inch. That will go into a 7/16 hole in the end plate, which will then be welded over. So the end plate will fit on there. There's enough room there for a washer to go on, and another one at this end, and there'll probably be nylon washers or PTFE to try and keep water out from going inside that and rusting it. And that should then, once I've made the end plate, do the job that I want it to. Well, that's the piece of equipment finished, apart from some painting at some point. We've got the square section on the end there, which you saw me machining a bit earlier, plus the peg that goes through, and I just need to put the end piece on there, the circlip, to stop it coming off. The two rather warm, recently welded in pegs on the front there, and the rubbers that will then slide over there and protect the end of the bike forks. So that's it, basically done. And I've used all machines in the shop realistically to do this. I've used 2 of the lathes, I've used the milling machine, I've used the shaper, and I've also used the tool and cutter grinder and the drill. So didn't leave a lot spare getting that done. Oh, and of course the angle grinder to cut it out and shape it. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting day spent making up a new support for the bike.